how do you move towards that world war? The American people have had enough of wars. And it's going to be very difficult to market this to American public opinion. The British also are fed up with wars. And it's going to be very difficult for British government to market a world war to the British public. So I think, Kevin, I may be wrong, but this is my opinion that they chose France because they felt they had a better chance with French public opinion. And so the first, what's it called, the Charlie Hebdo attack took place to prepare French public opinion. And it was a stupendous success. They had 45 heads of state marching within hours on the streets of Paris. And the French were duped. The French were duped. And the mainstream media, of course, once they have the mainstream media, they don't care about the alternative media now. The mainstream media is going to hold public opinion. And so when they felt that French public opinion had been sufficiently mobilized, they could come with the second one now. And the second one, which just occurred in November, I believe was meant to push France into a greater military role in Syria and Iraq, and to spearhead the effort so that the United States and Britain can enter on the coattail of France, and this is what is happening now. So it's an incremental movement towards war with Russia, and the pieces are all falling in place now. And the pity about it is, when this war takes place, I don't think there's going to be any Europe left after it and North America. People won't be able to live in that part of the world. So they're being taken for a ride, and just this Islamophobia conference should try to wake up people to the fact that you're being taken for a ride, and at the end of the day, you won't be able to live in North America. You won't be able to live in Europe. These places will not be habitable. Now, the other point I'd like to make is that they are committing false acts of terrorism and putting the blame on Muslims. But our perspective is that we who have faith in the one God, the God of Abraham, and every Jew believes in the God of Abraham, every Christian believes in the God of Abraham, has created this world as a moral order. This is not a frivolous world. This is not a world which is moving helter-skelter in the historical process. No, it is a moral order. And the implication of being a moral order is that truth must eventually emerge triumphant in the world. The implication of the world being a moral order is that those who are now committing false flags acts of terrorism with a mountain of lies, we say to them, Kevin, that your false flag chickens are one day going to come home to roost. Your false flag chickens are one day going to come home to roost. And monstrously evil acts of terrorism are going to take place, and you will be blamed for it. And you're going to pull your hands up and say, no, 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 we didn't do it. But nobody will believe you at that time, because you are preparing the way now for your own slaughter tomorrow. In fact, mankind will be so fed up with you. Mankind will have so much hatred for you tomorrow because of what you're doing today, that we say to you, tomorrow even the trees and the stones will speak, and I'll call on mankind to come and punish you.
You see that happening after a great war?
Not immediately after the Great War, because I am saying to you that ISIS is preparing the way for an avalanche of false flags to come. That every single member of ISIS who returns home from the battlefield there in Syria and Iraq and returns home is a ticking time bomb, because he's taken a pledge of allegiance to the leader, and the leader is himself being pulled by the strings led by the Mossad and the CIA. So the Mossad and the CIA are to use all of these people, Muslims, sincere Muslims, but misguided, returning home from the battlefield, and use them as time bombs. And when the order is given to commit an act of terrorism, to assassinate someone, they're going to do it because they have a religious duty now to obey the leader. So then they're not going to have any problems now. They don't have to train people because they're going to have Muslims committing acts of terrorism that they would plan for them.
Interesting, because in the Paris attacks on Friday the 13th of November, it appears that it may have been a hybrid attack in which there were some ISIS-type people from Muslim backgrounds who were involved, but also some professional white mercenaries who were blamed for the shooting at least one of the restaurants. And they have disappeared completely from the reports, from the headlines, from the French government's inquiry. And likewise, it does seem that some of the ostensibly Muslim patsies may have been manipulated. That is, the people who blew themselves up outside the stadium appear to have gone off away from other people and simply blown themselves up, which is a kind of a strange thing for them to do. Some have speculated that they may have been blown up by remote control. And then this latest thing in San Bernardino, it appears there that there are at least 2 witnesses who clearly saw that there were 3 white paramilitary guys carrying out the shooting as a paramilitary operation. So it actually wasn't the Muslim couple that's been blamed. So it seems like there's a sort of a possibility of hybrids in which patsies sometimes actually do some shooting and sometimes they don't, but that the paramilitary forces and their controllers are really the ones who organize these things.
The one that took place in November in Paris was far, far, far too important, strategically important, because it is meant to prepare the way for war with Russia. So they could not have left that to amateur Muslims who are angry with the West. No, you had to have had very, very professionally trained people to commit those acts of terrorism in Paris. But in addition to that, you must have a cover, and you have these Muslims who can be used as a cover. But Kevin, I don't think they need this for the future. Once they have their forces in place, that Britain and United States and France and Germany are in Russia, in Syria and Iraq. NATO is there. The pieces are all in place now. It's just one shot. Another Russian airline, for example, shot down, and that's it. The war begins, and it can begin any time now. The pieces are all in place. They don't need these big acts of terrorism anymore. What they need is to continue the Islamophobia with the avalanche of acts of terrorism, and I think ISIS is going to do that for them tomorrow.